Akkor nem tudom. Hát most más játékban nem akarok belekezdeni.
Még van időben, az meg 2 óra.
Hát de nem, hát jó, de itt figyelni kell majd a izét, akkor más játékot nem akarok a háttérbe, hogy menjen. HCC. Ó, HCC. HCC Trade. De, az meg a másik. Csak ez nem tudja a számokat.
Ja, bazd meg, nem 9-kor kezdünk. Akkor ja, hát akkor még több is, bazd meg. Jó van, igazatok van, nem tudom a számokat. Akkor még átsom meg a másik gépre, akkor még maradok. Beszélgethetsz velem egy kicsit, Conti.
Jó van, addig nézzünk videót.
Text control örömére.
Reakció, hát.
Annyira geci rühelnem egyébként az, hogy lekapcsolják bazd meg a weboldalt is, mert a...
Igen, lekapcsolják a weboldalt.
Hát mert bazd meg minden egy darab monolit program, faszomat, mindennel együtt lemegy. Büdös nagy szar. Aztán monolit, ugye?
Nem hallom a japán szöveget.
Oké, akkor majd némítottam, Kumi.
Beszélhetsz. Na ne! Szép illetőre. No ne!
何者だ。俺は右腕をなくしたが、お前は記憶をなくしたか。犬丸。ジグロか。おめえはあの時親方と一緒に死んだはずじゃ。構わねえ。もう一度殺してくれるわ。
No ne.
黄昏時を切る下町の魂提灯が灯れば目を覚まし神たらし風
Komoly volt. Na ezért majd jó megbasznak, itt van a link. Én Elemental
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it's Jinzo here, so pleased to make your acquaintance once again. After my previous video on the history of Dota, many viewers expressed their interest in the Pendragon incident. And as expected, many viewers asked why I omitted so much information regarding Pendragon himself in that video. And the reason is quite straightforward. At the time, I believed that by mentioning the story, it would take away the elegance and the historical interest for me, at least, for the history of Dota. However, as requested by many of the viewers, I will be talking about Pendragon in this video. I will try to remain as impartial as possible throughout this video, so that the viewer can come to their own conclusions on Pendragon's actions. Is he a benevolent entrepreneur? Or is he an individual that's only interested in monetary gain and his own self-interest? I'll let the viewers themselves decide on that. Oh, and one more thing, I apologize. I will be linking all the citations and references in the video description below, so if you're interested in them, please check them out as I go through them in this video. To start off the story, we rewind the clock back to March of 2004, when version 3.0D of Dota All-Stars was released by Ginsu. Keeping in mind at this time, Yule had already left the development scene, and consequently in April 2004, just 1 month after the release of version 3.0, Clan Dota All-Stars was formed, and in Clan Dota All-Stars at the time consisted of Pendragon, Ginsu and also IceFrog, among others. In October 14th of 2004, Pendragon created DotaAllStars.com, and as described by many Dota players, this website was the heart of the community. Absolutely everything that happened on Dota was discussed on this forum. In the years that followed, the site turned from a small forum with only 30,000 users to a massive community with over 1 million visitors every month, 1 million page views every day, and a staff of over 100 volunteers. It sounded great, but what went wrong? Well, to start off with, at the time there wasn't really any money involved in Dota. None of the developers were being paid, so very quickly Ginsu lost interest as the lead developer for Dota All-Stars. Finally, on February 28th of 2005, shortly after the 6X series is released, Ginsu announces his departure, and IceFrog along with Nakus takes over development. This was less than 1 year since the release of the original Dota All-Stars version 3.0D by Ginsu. 11 months to be exact. However, Nakus posted on Reddit, and in his own words, "The role I played in Dota's development was as a bridge between Ginsu and IceFrog. Essentially, what had happened was Ginsu had withdrawn from much effort on the map, having started a colossal upgrade, but then having lost interest in the meantime. After a period of this, it was obvious the map was dying. Without updates or attention, I forcibly took over the project from Ginsu." So from this, it's probably correct to assume that at some time before the official departure of Ginsu, that is before the 28th of February 2005, Ginsu had already lost most of his interest in developing for Dota. But why is that? Well, in 2005, the idea of League of Legends was just being materialized. The game's developer Riot Games was co-founded by Rise and Trundamere, who were roommates while they attended the University of Southern California. They also partnered with Ginsu, the previous designer of the popular Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne custom map Defense of the Ancients. The idea of a spiritual successor to Defense of the Ancients was that it would be its own standalone game with its own engine, rather than another mod of Warcraft 3 began to materialize at the end of 2005, aka around the time when Ginsu decided to leave Dota All-Stars. You may now be wondering, where does Pendragon fit in all of this? Well, let's first of all see what Nakus has to say about Pendragon. And the reason why Nakus is a reliable source is because he isn't being paid by anyone, he has no ulterior motive, and nor does he work for anyone to do with Dota or Riot Games today. So on Reddit, Zegio asks the question 2 years ago, "What's your opinion on the Pendragon incident?" To which Nakus replies, "When I was heading the project, I did work with Pendragon a fair bit, as he was in charge of the website and such. I don't exactly know where he got the money to do it. I kind of considered it wizardry on his part." so it seemed like the 18-year-old Pendragon was very good at managing money. I do recall one particular incident in which he approached me over renaming Razor to Razor with an E for advertisement money. I vetoed that since it didn't feel right to me. But as we know, eventually Nakus leaves the development team of Dota All-Stars and IceFrog takes charge. This continues for around 2 years until we hit 2008. This is when things takes a turn for the worst. So let's be fair about this and let's have a look at Pendragon's take on all of this. So he begins by writing a letter to the Dota community. I've already paraphrased the first 2 paragraphs, and let's start with the third. In the summer of 2002, I met Ginsu in real life for the first time. He and his boss, who I can only assume to be Rise or Trundamir, were in town and they wanted to meet up and go out for a steak. How could I say no? I soon learned that they were working on a game based on Dota, free from all the limitations of the Warcraft 3 engine and Battle.net. Several months after meeting them, and after several trips to their offices to learn more about the project, I joined the Riot Games team working on League of Legends. When I first joined the team in September of 2008, my original intent was to work on League of Legends full-time and continue to build DotaAllStars.com into an awesome thriving Dota community after IceFrog's departure. Now this final sentence is what I have a problem with. I quote, after IceFrog's departure. We will discuss IceFrog's statement to this later, but that happened in May of 2009. However, if Pendragon truly did have the intent of making Dota All-Stars into a quote, thriving community, then I find it inconceivable that a genuine human being could do all these things. Let me list them out to you. Let's see what Regan, one of the original founders of Dota, had to say about this. Towards the end of its lifespan, Pendragon had been reported spending time with a corporate entity and had been doing certain interviews. As days passed, it came to light that Pendragon had something up his sleeve that would blow Dota out of the water. The first mention of League of Legends came upon Pendragon himself, shamelessly promoting his new game within the confines of Dota All-Stars. Yes, the website was partly his, but we could all see that he helped develop the community to use it as an audience to lead to League of Legends. Well, if you don't want to take his words for it, just look at the ad itself on the Dota website. League of Legends, why play League of Legends? No more disconnections, obnoxious hackers, total imber matches, annoying levers, creating an acronym vertically that states Dota. So if Pendragon was allowing these sort of ads to go on the Dota All-Stars website, what does that say about his motive? Keep in mind that IceFrog left Dota All-Stars in 2009, and Pendragon stated that when IceFrog left, he still had the intention of making Dota All-Stars a thriving community. Now, if you're still skeptical and not willing to believe the citations that I've cited, let's go on to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and this is the government website. Hopefully this will be reliable enough. And let's have a look at the Valve vs Blizzard 2011 inquiry. In section 21, according to Blizzard Entertainment, in addition to the foregoing, in or about October 2004, 2 Warcraft fans, Steve Feek and Steve Mescon, which are Pendragon and Ginsu, launched the internet website DotaAllStars.com. Now the important part here is at the bottom. In 2008, Feek and Mescon each assigned all of their rights in and to the Dota mods and the Dota All-Stars website to Dota All-Stars LLC. In 2010, Dota All-Stars LLC was purchased by Riot Games Inc. So Pendragon decided himself that him and also Ginsu owned the entirety of the website and everything within it, and then decided that it would be a great idea to sell it to Riot Games. Also, of course, advertising on the website and degrading Dota at the same time. So let's go back to Pendragon's original letter. So here he says that, while I originally intended to leave this out of the letter, in light of the fact that this information is now out in the open, I think it's important to set the record straight. Many believe that IceFrog left because I wanted to commercialize, and he did not. In reality, I had learned that IceFrog had been secretly working for S2 Games after conducting a series of meetings where he was attempting to sell a full Dota game concept to a number of companies, including Riot. The differences of opinion that we had were merely that I chose to be transparent and honest about the project that I was working on and the direction my career was going. As Pendragon suggested, by being completely open and transparent with his opinions, he decided to shut down without prior notice the entire DotaAllStars.com website. Oh, and of course to place a League of Legends advertisement in its place. And in response, IceFrog replies with this: as a result of some differences, I am no longer affiliated with the DotaAllStars.com website. As of today, I am starting a new community site for Dota. I think it is more valuable to the players, though if I focus most of my time on developing and improving the game, so I'm here to reach out and ask for help on this. I believe that with some organization, the community has some very talented people that can help build a site to serve their interests and needs. And meanwhile, at the Riot headquarters, Pendragon decides to play a game of League of Legends. This is not photoshopped, you can see the original source. Naked Knight says, they have a random thing right there for a reason. Pendragon replies with I'm just going to suspend you for 3 days. What? Peace. Is that ... the real Pendragon? Yes. Access temporarily restricted. Our apologies, your summoner has been temporarily logged out due to a player support modification to your account. Please try again in 5 minutes. So Pendragon decided to ban a player that was on his team for randoming. Well, as something which is within the game, of course. What does that say about Pendragon's personality? Cavalierish, much? Now, at this point, it's unsurprising that the Dota community is furious with Pendragon for shutting down the website. But what's the motive behind it? Well, Pendragon creates an AMA for I Am Pendragon from Riot Games on Reddit, and one of the top replies was by Godbutt asking, what's the update on this, citing allstars.com. Pendragon replies with, I'm working on restoring the forums, hopefully in the next week or so, but I can't promise it, it's kind of a tangled mess right now. Unfortunately, in a week's time, no archive was to be found, and it actually took Pendragon 2 to 3 more years to be able to get this archive back online. Just out of my personal experience, to back up and re-upload an archive of a forum, regardless of how big, it would have only taken you a week at most for somebody that even remotely knows what they're doing. So what was Pendragon hiding? Well, this is what he was hiding. A post was submitted, access to the old DotaAllStars.com to be restored, most likely as a read-only. But the more interesting comment is by Infinite Vox below. Oh thanks, 3 years later. Oh well, now I can finally prove that I was the creator of Teemo and Rammus, and that your development team went through the Dota hero/ability/item suggestions and it for ideas for your game. Thanks so much for that. A little credit would have been nice, but instead you took the forums down so no one would know what you did. And even if they did know, they'd have no proof. So in other words, a lot of people were very, very angry at Pendragon because it was obvious that League of Legends and their developers plagiarized the original Dota forums for ideas while it was down, then re-uploading it to the archives and taking out all of the hero concepts to which they copied from. Does it end there, you ask? No, not quite. We now go back to the Dota trademark dispute between Blizzard and Valve. Keeping in mind that during all this time, Pendragon wants the Dota community to thrive. So, by helping Dota thrive, Pendragon and Ginsu goes ahead and they have an interview with PC Gamer. So the interviewer asks them, from PC Gamer, a few questions about the trademarking and the ownership of Dota. Ginsu replies with, I was aware that trademarking the name was possible, but originally I had no intention of filing for any Dota-related trademarks because Dota is owned by the community. Dota is a mod that many people have contributed to. Not a single person or development team, like most typical games. As soon as you step away and create a new game, like we at Riot Games did with League of Legends, it is no longer Dota. After all, Dota wouldn't be where it is today without the many contributions the community has made over the years. Neither Pendragon, Riot Games, nor I have any desire to dictate the future of Dota, except that Ginsu and Pendragon decided to register Dota All-Stars, proclaimed that they owned it, sold it to Riot, and now claim that they don't want to dictate the future of Dota. And the rest of this interview is just Ginsu and Pendragon talking about how Dota should belong to the community. But then if you go back onto the lawsuit on the government website, it states clearly that Riot Games sells the trademark of Dota All-Stars to Blizzard in 2011 so that Blizzard would have an upper hand in trademarking the title, because not only did they own Warcraft 3, now they own DotaAllStars.com. So, as you can see in this interview with PC Gamer, both Pendragon and Ginsu have lied through their teeth in that they don't want to dictate the future of Dota, whereas by shutting down the website, plagiarizing from it, archiving it, and then proclaiming it that everything belongs to them, then selling it off to Riot, and then consequently Riot selling Dota All-Stars to Blizzard Entertainment. And in all of this, regardless of how impartial I would like to be as promised at the beginning of the video, it's hard for it to not leave a sour taste in our mouths. And yet somehow, as all of this drama unfolded, IceFrog still managed to stay silent. Tryndamere, Ginsu and Pendragon have made numerous attempts to make personal attacks on who IceFrog is and what he stands for, as IceFrog was the only one that stood between Riot and League of Legends holding a monopoly on the MOBA genre. I do not know the level of dedication and resolve that IceFrog holds, but he managed to do this and develop Dota All-Stars for over a decade without ever asking us for anything in return. So I guess if that's not a hero of the people, I don't know what is. I suppose that's enough for today, and that comes to the end of the Pendragon story. Anyway, as usual, if you like this video, throw a like, comment or subscribe, and leave me a comment on what you want the next video to be on. Feel free to join our Discord community in the video description below. And as usual, my name is Jinzo, and it was my pleasure to be your host for today. Until next time, Jinzo out.
Hát basszeg, ez jó nagy geci volt akkor. Mekkora csicska volt. Legalábbis ebből a videóból az derült ki. Hogy nem vagy már itt? Francis, te nem figyeltél. Nem mondom el. Ne, hát amikor jöttél, akkor derült ki, akkor volt a lényeg konkrétan. Amikor írtad, hogy na ez volt az igazi Dota. Hát én is kontextus nélkül néztem. Ott volt a lényeg. Ja. Nem tudom elmondani, úgyhogy hogy helyes legyen és jó. Az a lényeg, hogy volt a Pendragon, aki dolgozott a Dotán, azt amikor lett lehetőség arra, hogy legyen belőle egy másik moba, a LOL, akkor volt egy oldal, ami a Dota All-Starnak az oldala volt, azt már ott elkezdte reklámozgatni a LOL-t. Meg hát az a baj, nem lehet, nem tudom összefoglalni olyan gyorsan, úgyhogy benne legyen elég információ. De nagyjából ez a lényeg. De nem tudom, azt meg nem tudom. Nem tudom úgy, hogy jó legyen. Na az a lényeg, hogy volt az oldal, ami a... Nem is tudom, hogy mi lenne a leglényegesebb. Mindegy, az a lényeg, ez a lényeg, ez is a lényeg volt, meg az is a lényeg volt, hogy lekerült az egész oldal a netről, a fórum, amit ugye föl kellett volna neki töltenie vissza, mert hogy majd a Dota Community-ért azért megteszik, azt valami 3 év múlva töltötte föl, azt kiderült, hogy volt egy ember, aki ugye a fórumon kiötletelte a Ramuszt meg a Tímót, és akkor igazából leszarták, azt azért tartotta, ez volt így megmondva, hogy azért tartott ennyi ideig, hogy ezt így visszatöltse, meg mit tudom én, mert igazából onnan loptak ötleteket. Igen, onnan loptak ötleteket LOL karakterekhez. Azt szarták például. Nem mindegy, ez igazából egy ilyesmi a lényeg. Nem mindegy. Mi volt még itt? Ja. Nagy geci volt. Ez mi?
How you going? It's that time of year again, when one of my video ideas isn't working out and is taking way longer than I expect, from an anonymous emailer who just sent me this screenshot of a treadmill belt sander. And I love it. Not only is this idea dangerous with the potential of finally grinding away my foot fungus, but I reckon it could actually just be a great cheap way of building a strong belt sander. So the first thing I did was grab a $50 treadmill from Facebook Marketplace and stuff it into my car, breaking a light. And now all I need to do is somehow turn this belt into sandpaper. And at first I thought I could try just gluing sand onto it, but after making a test piece with some PVC glue and sand on paper, I really don't like my chances of covering a whole belt. Oh, it hurts. It's like I'm sanding myself. So instead I took down the measurements of the treadmill belt. And then sent them off to a man that loves sand and asked him to make the most abrasive belt that he could. And 1 week later, I got this in the mail. Okay, then I just carefully took apart the treadmill. Making sure to leave all the spiders exactly where they were, and then fitted the new belt onto it. And now, I think it's done.
It looks actually quite nice.
So, let's see how it works.
Please move. Nice.
So I adjusted the belt to stop it scraping and tried again.
That is terrifying. See what it does to something. See what it does to
And I couldn't hold the piece of wood still, so I made some support to help me do that. And with that, it worked really well, and sanded away an inch of wood in a matter of seconds. And it's so awesome that this thing actually makes a fantastic belt sander while also retaining the original charm and purpose of the treadmill, helping you grind away your body weight. So I decided I need a run on it.
doesn't feel that bad.
And I'm not actually that worried, as I figure as long as I keep up with the speed of the belt, it shouldn't actually grind away my feet. If anything, I'll get more grip and potentially set a new world record.
Okay. Oh yeah, it hurts me slip. No. It just sticks to my feet. Oh shit. Oh my god.
User disconnected from your channel.
How do I solve it?
Eight out of 10. Suggestion number 2 is already my favorite on paper and comes from Queef Chief in my Discord server, who wants me to make an emergency hot dog that heats up when you crack it like a glow stick. And I'm honestly not sure why this doesn't exist already. It sounds like the perfect food for wealthy castaways or for people that are just sick of eating glow sticks. Don't worry, Queef Chief, I've got your back. And to do this, I think I'm going to need some hot dogs and some dangerous chemicals. And when I mix in this chemical, which is definitely not sodium hydroxide, it should hopefully get hot enough to warm up the hot dog. So I looked up the perfect temperature of a hot dog, which is actually a pretty tricky question to answer. And I found scientific papers that have been done on this exact subject.
Has to be a joke.
And no one seems to agree, and it changes depending on where you are in the world, like New York, Australia, or China. But I settled for a target somewhere in the middle, around 70 degrees. And this water with the chemical reaches a crazy 129 degrees Celsius, which is definitely hot enough. And now I wanted to check how that temperature feels on my hot dog. Perfect. Next, I need a water bag that I can pop easily to mix with the solution. So I cut open the instant cold packs and stole the little water bag. And now I just realized that if I mix these chemicals together in a confined space like I was planning, they might just explode. So I decided to test it first. explode. That is so hot. Wow. And I didn't die, which is good. So now I need a bag to put the hot dog and chemicals in. And glow sticks come in fantastic heat sealable bags. And I tried to buy some of these, but you can only order them in units of 10,000 or more, and I'm not ready to become a full-time hot dog business yet. But I think I can probably make my own bag. If I get some plastic like this and run a solder along it, it sticks together. So I just did this to create a pocket, and then drew what I would want my packaging to look like, then put the hot dog and chemicals inside, then sealed up the other end, and here we have it, the crack dog. Named this because it looks like it's filled with crack. So I decided I was hungry and ready to test it out.
What? Well, it's getting hot. 68 degrees in the bag. Let's leave it like that for a while. Let's crack our delicious hot dog open. Okay. Am I allowed to touch that? No. Ah! Alright. It's actually hot! Kinda scared.
And that worked perfectly. The hot dog was nice and hot. The only problem was that sodium hydroxide is a highly poisonous corrosive substance that causes skin burns. 0 out of 10. Suggestion number 3 comes from an anonymous mailer who suggests I do a NordVPN sponsorship and get money.
That is a great idea.
I've been using NordVPN for years, and it allows me to have peace of mind when surfing the web, as it protects all my data and internet activity behind a wall of next-generation
Channel
encryption.
switch.
It's so easy to use, and with one click, you can connect to over 5,200 servers in 60
Sound
countries.
muted.
With speeds so fast, you don't even notice Nord is there.
Wow.
Nord is incredibly useful for me, especially when I'm Googling dodgy chemical advice and want to remain protected and secure. It's also great for seeing what happens to YouTube ads when I switch my location from Australia to Sweden. So go.
Ez csak reklám volt, jó van, nem értettem.
Number 4 comes from Twitter, where I asked all of you for suggestions on the most dangerous ways of cutting my lawn. And I received thousands
Sound
of comments.
resumed.
Some were
De
bad.
másik térs amúgy, nem? De ja, szerintem jó a Frankfurt, nem? Hát én oda mentem, vagy ott is fönn vagyok, de hát a többiek úgyis oda jönnek,
Others
nem?
were also bad, but one stood
tudom,
out
ki
as
vele
Hát ez
leszünk
úgyis
the
ezért néha
Wave
szarakodik, menjünk oda.
999, who wants me to get one of those kids ankle hopping games,
Sound
but put a
muted.
machete
Sound
on the
resumed.
end and then cut my lawn. So I went to Toys R Us and bought one of their ankle hoppers, but they were out of
User
machetes,
joined your
so I
channel.
bought one of their kitchen knives instead.
Ah,
And then
szint,
bought
már van
another
már
one
szaró?
to open the package.
Már szaró még nincs, de már le tudod tölteni az update-et. Szerintem
Azt már
érdemes
letöltöttem.
Then I removed the blade and attached it to the
Nyomkodom,
rope,
meghallgatózom
and
a
then got the ball and attached it to the handle.
Az
And
a
now I
másik
have the
monitort.
world's most dangerous kids toy and funnest kitchen knife. So before I try using it and risk cutting off my ankles, I thought I should do a practice warm-up. Great, let's do this. And I did actually mow my lawn recently, but I left a little section just for this test. And this goes without saying, but I am a trained professional, and my family has been cutting their lawns like this for generations, so do not try this at home.
Jézus fasza!
Az.
Ezt... Ja.
Mi történt?
Semmi. Az életlen amúgy, semmi az.
And I can actually manage to keep it going, so I decided to try and cut the grass.
Ja, I did a thing, igen.
Ne csázsodsz.
And I couldn't spin it on the grass, so I went back to the
Ja, videó
concrete
neve?
and
Az
decided
melyik?
that I can move in once the
Tested
blade is
your
spinning.
most dangerous
Ja.
video ideas.
You cut my foot, but not the grass. 1 out of 10. Okay, on to the last suggestion. And I think I have no choice now but to go with Clumsy Ninja's
Yes,
suggestion
nyilván
for my
csak it's
Patreon and
visible
make a
van.
machine that can chew for me. So I looked up some machines that already do this, and all of them just make me feel very, very uncomfortable. So I've decided I'm going to make a non-humanoid looking one using a blender, a welder, not my helmet, this tube, and some metal. So first I cut open the top of the helmet and remove the brain, so I have space to put in the blender. Now I need a hole in the blender so the tube can funnel the delicious mush
Q,
into my mouth.
állítólag
And
azt,
to
hogy
make this
Kines nem
hole, I got
trollkodik.
a whole bit and just put it in the blender and turned it on.
Flash Kina!
3487.
Hole, which is actually kind of terrifying as it gives me direct access to the blade when it's spinning. So I decided I would do the same test as with the hot dog and see if it's working alright. Perfect. Then I placed the whole thing in the helmet and attached the tube. Alright, then I cut these metal pieces and placed it together in perfect right angles and welded it again and again. Then I gave it a coat of paint, sanded it down, and finally was left with this. So, let's go test it out.
Köszi Kines.
Okay, for the test, I chucked in some berries, some banana, and some yogurt.
Emiatt laggol a videó, vagy most mi történik amúgy? Tudjuk? Emiatt miért laggol? Miért laggol a videó emiatt?
A fókusz is elment.
Amúgy ez mi a tökő?
Hát, annyi. Itt van. Van szert. Közel command van szerver amúgy.
Hurts my head so much.
I have a headache. 5 out of 10. Okay, and now for the winner. And they are all bad ideas. And only all together do...
Indítom. Bezárom a Steam-et. És ami nem kell, azt is bezárjuk. Szészete. Marci. Raven's Watch. Ismerkedés népszín az utcában? Tököm, ez Zsoca küldte.
Figyelj már azt, hogy nem tudom, láttad-e ezeket a Facebook üzeneteket, amik milyen mostanában jönnek? Hát különböző csajok írnak nekünk mindenféle ilyen felszedő szöveggel.
Lehet tudni most mi történik? Vagy mi most a poem miatt izél? Vagy most mi van?
Valószínűleg. Nézd meg a felhasználásod, a teljes feladatkezőben teljesítményt amúgy.
Nem, de hát...
Ezt mit csinálják, ha nem jó?
Ezeket ki is lehet próbálni a való életben.
Vagy zárd be a poét, vagy csinálj mást.
Figyelj arra, hogy ez igazi vagy nem.
Vagy vedd le a minőségét a videónak.
Szia kedves, van kedved csatlakozni a WhatsApp szex csoporthoz? Sok fiatal...
Nem szeretne.
Szia kedves, szeretnél csatlakozni a WhatsApp szex csoporthoz. Sok gyönyörű nő van ebben a csoportban, akinek szüksége van szexre. És nem fogod megbánni.
Nem lehet, bazd meg. De miért nem? Egyszer se volt eddig ilyen poéva. Ha nyomok ezt képet, akkor följön a menü, vagy akkor cancel, vagy nem történik semmi?
Hát cancel-eli a Q-dat.
Ennyit nem ér. Ennyit nem ér a videózás. Nem, ennyit nem ér a videózás, nem? De miért csinálná ezt? Tehát, hogy miért lenne ilyen? Tudjuk. Eddig nem volt ilyen.
Egyszerűen 2 órát sorba állni. Mondjuk tök mindegy, amúgy, hogyha EJ-vel fogunk együtt játszani, akkor tök mindegy a Q. Conti, escape ellen, és állítsd át a settings-en.
De mit állítsak át? Hát ettől miért lenne? Tehát nem...
Honnan tudjam? Ne öltözön, és már visszacsapok. Ott az övet, Conti. De a Q-ból kiléphetsz, mert EJ-jel fogunk valószínűleg úgyis játszani, és nem tudom mikor jön.
És honnan tudod, hogy nincs Q-ba?
Mert valószínűleg még nem otthon van. Elég nagy esélye.
De kilépek a Q-ból, akkor látják a Steam-en, hogy HT vagyok, mint bárki, az úgy nem jó. Bad image. Nem? 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 Haló?
Nem?
Nem?
Nem, bocs, nem figyeltem.
Nem?
Elméletek, ha kiállsz a sorban, majd szólsz Kinlesnek, és ő majd így izét tudod, be tudsz tolakodni Kinles mögé elméletileg.
Igen.
Aha, hát írsz a supportnak, hogy pisilni kellett. Na hát már 20 000-es sor van amúgy.
És Kinles elküld a screenshotot, berakom a képernyőre. De ettől a Google Chrome az miért csinálna bármit? Vagy milyen lesz szarabb?
Akkor nyitottad utoljára újra a gépet amúgy.
Délután, direkt.
Ja, oké. Got me there. One toss.
Megpróbáljuk még egyszer.
Jó. Szia kedves, van kedves csatlakozni?
Ne, hát rendes laggol a videóba az meg. Már nem úgy laggol, hanem FPS laggol. FPS laggol a videó. De miért? Hol vannak ilyenkor az okosak? Mitől?
Sok fiatal nő van ebben a Sok fiatal nő van ebben a csoportban, akinek szüksége van szexre.
Ferrari okosiz, ha?
És nem fogod megbánni.
De mondom, 74 vagyok, apukám. Mi? Hova?
Hova? Minek?
Örülhetek, uram? Le. Szóval. Micsoda nap?
Micsoda nap?
Micsoda nap?
Jó.
Ja. Én azon gondolkodtam, hogy szeretnék szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezik. Szívok egy banánembert, aki undorozhat tőlem, miközben az ágyban szeretkezik.
Nem vagyok kapható
Tesókám.
Nem vagy kapható?
Nem, nagyon kell.
Szia kedves, van kedves csatlakozni a WhatsApp szex csoporthoz? Sok fiatal nő van ebben a csoportban, akinek szüksége van szexre. És nem fogod megbánni.
Uram.
Szia kedves, van kedves csatlakozni a WhatsApp szex csoporthoz?
Jó napot! Szeretnék szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezik. Szívok egy banánembert, aki undorodik, amikor szeretkezem.
Menjem a picsába.
Hello, szeretnénk szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezik. Szívok egy banánembert, aki... Oh, yeah, it was just like about I wanted to have sex with a male who can satisfy me while... Yeah. Jó napot! Szeretnék szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezik. Szívok egy banánembert, aki undorik, amikor szeretkezem.
Nem értem, mit mond? Nem értem. Még egyszer?
Szeretnék szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezem. Szívok egy banánembert, aki undorik, amikor szeretkezem.
Szórakozik. Ezek szerint nem tudom, nem értem én ezt. Tehát, hogy hülye vagyok hozzá, de nem értem.
Nem érti.
Taníts meg a rosszra,
fájdalom.
taníts meg a rosszra, engedelmes diák leszek. Úgy teszek, ahogy akarod.
Szuper.
Tudok lenni nagyon ragaszkodó és engedelmes.
Már most nem tudok jól reagálni.
Lehetek goromba vagy makacs?
Nagyon kedves vagy.
Válasz téged.
Ó, hát most mi megyünk reggelizni, de...
Csatlakozz hozzám most és érezd az örömet, drágám.
Nagyon kedves vagy. Most csatlakozom a barátnőmhöz.
Taníts meg a rosszra, engedelmes diák leszek. Úgy teszek, ahogy akarod. Tudok lenni nagyon ragaszkodó és engedelmes.
Igen?
Lehetek goromba vagy makacs? Válasz téged.
Micsoda?
Csatlakozz hozzám most, és érezd az örömet, drágám.
Nem szeretnék.
Nem értem, ez fejtörő?
Csatlakozz hozzám most, és érezd az örömet, drágám.
Csatlakozom.
És akkor most mi van benne?
Nekem ez sok.
Jó van akkor.
Szia kedves! Van kedved csatlakozni a WhatsApp szex csoporthoz? Sok gyönyörű nő van ebben a csoportban, akinek szükség a szexre, és nem fogod megbánni.
Köszönöm, kihagyom szívem.
Jó.
Köszönöm.
Szia kedves! Bocs, lenne kedved csatlakozni a WhatsApp... Oké.
Jó napot! Szeretnék szeretkezni egy férfival, aki kielégít, miközben az ágyban szeretkezem. Szívok egy banánembert, aki undoroltat, amikor szeretkezem.
Itt tényleg.
Szétverlek. Ha nem szégyeled magad.
Na hát, szétverjük.
Te cetli vagy, nem?
Igen. Igen.
Hát beszéljük arról, hogy kurva jó dolgokat csinálsz, azt akarom mondani neked, azért álltam meg. Azért fejtőről.
Kész matricát?
Elfogadok egyet, köszönöm, ja.
Tessék.
Kész matricát. Oda is így szoktál világ.
Csokolom. Én szaja vagyok az ágyban, és minden elképzelhető pozícióban megbaszom magam. Csokolom, szaja vagyok az ágyban, és minden elképzelhető pozícióban megbaszom magam.
Megy a villamos.
Oké, ciao. Szajha vagyok az ágyban, és minden elképzelhető módon megbaszom magam, minden elképzelhető pozícióban megbaszom magam, és tele vannak a melleim a forró magvaiddal. Igen, ezt szoktam mondani. Igen.
Ez a segítség.
Igen, ennyi.
De te barátnőt keresel, vagy szexuális társat?
Hát, inkább barátok szerintem.
Akkor egy óra múlva menjünk ki a lábáztatóhoz. Sok csaj van. Nem szereted ajánlani?
Hát jobban szeretem csak az ilyen utcán leszólítós izéket.
Tényleg? De te doktor vagy.
Igen.
Az nekem
Igen.
Olmot.
A szerelem doktora.
Az jó.
Igen.
Milyen szépek a szemei magának.
Köszönöm.
Nem kellett volna. Lehet, hogy ez volt a baj eddig, hogy megmozdítottam az egeret.
Nincs ilyen senkinek a világon.
Köszönöm szépen. Szép napot, megyek akkor még.
Még alkesz vagyok.
Az se rossz. Megyek akkor még.
De nem szeretek inni, most Top Joy-t szeretek. Coca-Colát.
Top Joy-t, hát figyelj, mondta Fili, ez... Na jó. Jó, megyek, még nézegetők a Blahat felé, majd találkozunk. Ciao.
Papudiba.
Igen.
Nekem meg elvárt a tükör.
Ajaj, ciao.
Sziasztok srácok! Tetszik?
Micsoda?
Nagy, spriccel, krémes kám, anális, mélytorok, dupla behatolás, rabszolgaság, fájdalomjátékok, szexi tánc, lábsarok, különböző jelmezek, megeszem a saját folyadékomat. Gyere és érezd jól magad!
Sziasztok srácok!
Nagyon big yikers. Mi volt még itt? Ez rendes laggó minden. Minden laggó, persze.
The arrival of Kickstarter and the unfulfilled desire for exciting new MMOs combined with Unreal Engine's capability to make absolutely anything look beautiful was the perfect formula for the introduction of MMOs.
Elemental és DD-t érkeznek. Aztán majd kiderül ugye a harmadik halálna. Nem lehet videót nézni sajnos. Az előzőt végigbírta. Jó, nem végig, de... Két 20 halál, csak nem menjünk, nem?
Scams into the world. Today we're going to talk about the 5 most interesting MMO scams to exist so far. We'll talk about how they came to be, and perhaps most importantly, where they are now. Was it malice or ignorance that led to millions of dollars disappearing while having nothing to show for it? Which ones went to jail and which ones got away with it? And were we wrong about any of them? Let's find out. First up, Chronicles of Illyria. This was another fascinating one to follow, with a story that's going to start to sound very familiar as we go through this list. It all starts on Kickstarter, led by a man named Jeremy Walsh. Was it malice or ineptitude that caused this to play out the way that it did?
Bár a poe patch miatt lehet, hogy a poe beállításokat visszaállította, de attól nem kéne.
The first screenshot was shared on the company's Twitter feed. Remember what this looks like. It's going to be important because
most eldöntöttem, hogy ez lesz az kész. Eddig én is mindig. Meg szerintem a játékosoknak nagy része mindig még el nem indult, addig nem tudja.
Again, remember what this footage looks like. Then on May 3rd, 2016, Soulbound Studios announces its long-awaited Kickstarter campaign asking for just $900,000 and promising this. Aging, Dying, and Souls, an epic 10-year storyline invites you to experience your character over multiple lifetimes. With each life, you will develop your character and make your mark in the Chronicles. When your character eventually dies, their soul will be reincarnated stronger than before, and their spirit and destiny will live on in another character of your making. The game being described was on a scale never before seen. It was going to have every system and feature that you've ever wanted all rolled into one massive MMORPG, or at least that's what they told us. And apparently it worked. Just 1 month later on June 3rd, 2016,
addig jók ezek az MMO-k, amíg játszanak a haverjaid, meg sok ember. Azon kívül már így szar az egész. Igazából amúgy is az, csak akkor igazából játszol azokkal, meg játszanak azok, akik úgymond érdekessé teszik, vagy neked érdekessé teszik. Én így látom az MMO-t. Csak hát ezt meg tudod csinálni igazából bármi játékkal, hogyha a haverjaid játsszák, vagy olyanok, akik neked fontosak, vagy nem tudom, azok, akik érdekelti teszik neked a játékot.
Jeremy announced that the game isn't going to meet the deadline he had promised due to their inability to attract talented developers. The first sign that things really weren't going well.
Nyilván vannak olyan emberek, akik szeretnék, hogy ezt a játékot játsszák az emberek, meg a barátaik, meg mindenki. Szia Máté! És akkor így milyen jó lenne. De alapvetően az...
No member of the public had played a single minute of it. Later in that year, November 2018, with over $6 million in funding secured, people were beginning to worry about the future of the game. They noticed it had been nearly 2 years since they saw any new footage of the game.
De hányan vannak ez? Azokkal mi a baj? Azok pont nem tetszenek, vagy csak nem játsszák azok az emberek, akik szerinted érdekesé teszik, vagy érdekeltő. Mert hányan van? Sok.
Remember when I told you to remember what the original gameplay footage would look like? This is what backers thought they were getting. No, it's what they were told they were getting. And this is what they got. To say that fans were disappointed would be an understatement of a lifetime. The game was now 2 years past its initial planned delivery date and 8 times over budget, and this was all they had to show for it. This was the result of 4 years of development and millions of dollars of backer money. It's here where most of the backers soured on the game, some going as far as to threaten legal action against Soulbound. On March 11th, 2020, the Settlers of Illyria event would take place as a pre-alpha event to allow participation in 45-day tests of the game. Of course, this pre-alpha test included massive microtransactions to allow players to spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars buying plots of land within this unfinished game if they wanted. Amazing. It was a disaster. Players were not happy, and now with a much more realistic idea of what this game was going to be, the funding for the game stopped coming in. In an event that was only surprising to the backers with their heads 6 feet under the sand, on March 25th, 2020, Soulbound announced the studio would be shuttering. On April 6, 2020, however, there was an about face due to the threat of legal consequences. An FAQ appeared on the COE website stating that the game would very much be released and that they did not mean to imply it was shutting down. This was likely for legal reasons, as they had promised to deliver a game in exchange for the money they'd collected. To simply state that the game wasn't coming without refunding any of the money could leave them vulnerable to some legal action. With angry backers undeterred by this promise, on August 17, 2020, a class action lawsuit was filed demanding that Soulbound refund the money for the game that they failed to deliver. Soulbound declined the demands to refund the backers, so on February 3, 2021, the case was legally filed. Around the same time, Illyria was posting a couple of videos a month about the progress of the game.
Q az olyan korán volt, mint hogyha 9-től indulna.
So where's the game now, 2 years after all of that? And how did the lawsuit end? Was justice served? Was the people's money returned? Was anyone held accountable for the complete mismanagement of the funds? Well, I wish I could say that the court laid the law down on this man and this practice of taking people's money without the realistic possibility of being able to deliver what was promised. I wish the court case had sent a signal to would-be Kickstarter scammers, but unfortunately the lawsuit was dismissed and Walsh escaped with everything except for his reputation. He's now working on a completely different game and a completely different engine known as Kingdoms of Illyria. My guess is this game has as much of a chance of turning into a polished, finished product as Chronicles of Illyria. Whatever you do, don't give Jeremy Walsh another dime of your money for a game that isn't yet complete, because it's probable he's selling you a bridge to nowhere. I'm not saying don't buy his game when it's finished, I'm just saying don't buy his game until it's finished, which is actually fantastic advice for any of the games on this list today. Next up, we have The Day Before. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Crasher Nirvana is an amazing martial arts fantasy MMORPG mobile game that was just released. In this game, you will play as a warrior and experience a vast open world with immersive graphics. There are 7 classes and roles within the game, each with specific skills, weapons, and appearances. In the exploration of the vast open world, you can fight with monsters and bosses in different maps and scenes to acquire materials to learn martial arts, upgrade your weapons, and practice your successive attack skills. If you get bored with your first character, you're free to change your profession. Not only that, you can also turn into a demon. The demonized player has a completely different appearance along with more powerful abilities. In the process of completing tasks, you will encounter a variety of NPCs and constantly delve into the character's storyline. The game also features a deep PvP and guild skill system where you can team up with friends to fight together and challenge yourself with more special side stories. The game also adds an intriguing social system that allows players who prefer interpersonal relationships to quickly make friends, find love, and get married to other players in-game. So be sure to check out this unique MMORPG within a gorgeous and mysterious setting. Log into the game now and get 200 consecutive draws for free. It's highly possible for you to get rare drops, pets, and skins, so download it now using the link in the description below and use my code GIFT2023 for epic rewards. Thank you for listening, and now let's get back to the video. This is the most recent possible scam to be added to this list, and I say possible scam because it's not really confirmed yet. This story starts in January of 2021 when a developer known as Fantastic dropped the trailer for their upcoming title, The Day Before. It was announced as an open-world survival MMO set in a deadly post-pandemic America that has been overrun by flesh-hungry infected. It caught massive attention. The public was incredibly excited for this idea. So they announced that on March 31st, 2021, they would show everyone some gameplay footage. Today, before it was set to air on March 30th, they ended up delaying the trailer a week.
Sokszor mondja, sokszor lesz, hogy régen minden jobb volt.
Later, April 6, 9 a.m. And so on April 6, everyone tuned in and were met with a starting soon screen. They would watch the screen for over 9 hours until the stream was finally shut down. On April 9th, 2021, then 13 minutes of gameplay was finally revealed. The 13 minutes of gameplay looked great as far as everyone could tell. It would look so great that the game would become the most wishlisted game on Steam, over top of games from AAA studios like Spider-Man, Stalker 2, and even Bethesda's Starfield. This caught people's attention. Fantastic accomplished this without having a great track record to stand on. Looking back at their history, they sold early access to their game called Wild 8, and then almost immediately abandoned it. They moved on to a game called Dead Dozen, which had even more problems, went into early access, and shut down completely 3 months later. Things kept getting weirder though. The trailer looked too good to be true, literally. Developers would even react to the video, stating that at the very least this looked like a vertical slice of the game.
Régen kiadtak a teljes játékot, amúgy voltak demók, de demo volt, nem ilyen faszomság, hogy early access, lefejlesztették. Régen amúgy, hogyha valamilyen hiba volt a játékban, akkor nem, most az sem volt így gond. Mert tudtad, hogy mit tudom ez, itt a játék, ott volt a CD, beraktad, volt hiba volt. De most már ugye folyamatosan foglalkoznak vele, azt úgyis ugyanolyan szar.
Mert egyébként az volt a különbség még régen, hogy régen azért sokkal kevesebb hiba volt, mert nem volt az, hogy már Day 1 patch, meg Day 2 patch, meg minden lófasz, mert senkinek nem volt internete. A játékok se ilyen live service szarok voltak.
A másik oldal védelmére azt tudom mondani, hogy kevesebb hardware volt, meg szoftver, meg mit tudom én, de akkor is.
But that means that those can't actually be other players.
It could be. It could very well be. They have their. Amúgy szerintem az early access alapjában véve egy jó system, csak sokan visszaélnek vele.
Because if it was a real player, the animation wouldn't be necessary. You actually play a game, you're kind of jittery.
Hát jó, csak emiatt meg már azt jelenti, hogy szar.
Igen, hát igen. Alapból early access az például, hogyha megnézed egy olyan játékot, mint Hades, az early access-ben volt, mit tudom én, 2 évig, de mindenki látta, hogy jó játék, meg nagyobb potenciál, meg minden.
Hát ja, a Darkest Dungeon is ilyen volt, azt mondom.
Ja. Azért mondom, hogy vannak jó példák, csak az a baj, hogy sokan meg...
Főleg az ilyen indie stúdióknak nagyon jó, de már mindenki early access, az is, aki érted bárki.
Igen. Csak az a baj, hogy kiadnak egy csomó játékot, 2 évig early access-ben van, és ugyanolyan szar, mint ahogy mondtad. És akkor meg tudják azt mondani, hogy de hát még csak early access.
Fast forward to May 3rd, a little over a month before the game's scheduled launch date, Fantastic posted an announcement letting the community know that they would be giving a big update about the game that week. And what was the big update they hyped up? The big update they got that week was that they were delaying the launch of the game another 9 months, into March of 2023. The reason for the delay? Well, there was such massive interest in the game that they wanted to spend more time making sure they got it right. Honestly, for a studio that had never seen this kind of interest, to look at its project landing at the top of the Steam wishlist and decide, hey, we better spend the time to get this right. Well, it isn't all that surprising. Among the changes that would be made, they would be switching the game over from UE4 to UE5. This also isn't surprising, as we've seen multiple studios make the same move around the same time. So far, we have a lot of red flags that could be genuine mistakes or intentional deception, but there wasn't anything you could point at and say, these guys are definitely acting in bad faith. That was until they later posted a video asking for people to work on their game for free, as volunteers. Naturally, alarm bells were really sounding now. It was weird that the studio was promising to deliver a game far
ez volt az a game, aminek még most is volt izéje, valami botrány, nem? Vagy nem botrány, de hogy...
are afraid to attempt because of the budget it demands. But people were willing to give them the benefit of the doubt until they had a reason not to. And for a lot of people, this was that reason. How are you going to make a game that by its very nature required a AAA budget, all while using unpaid volunteers? What kind of quality would that provide? And what kind of a studio do you have to be to even be willing to publicly ask for such things? If things weren't bizarre enough, on January 4th, 2023, Fantastic released another video on their YouTube that was a poorly hidden ad for another product.
Ennyire már nem basszhatja el az életedet.
Ennyire már nem?
Mit mondasz?
Azért neked sem, vagy neked azért igen?
Lefagyasztom magam 2 órára, bemegyek a mély YouTube-ba, most pakoltam ki belőle az összes jégkrémet amúgy is.
They had now used their attention to that they garnered for the day before to launch 2 other projects that were not the day before. And they had also tried to get people to work on their game for free, while also delaying the release of the game twice. The longer the story goes on, the red flags pile up, and people notice that they ended up having to turn off the comments and likes and dislikes on videos to hide the ire of the community. On the bright side, the game was going to be launching in just 3 months, so Fantastic's chance to vindicate themselves was fast approaching. That is, until it wasn't.
Én gyakoroltam, és az meg 20 éve nem gyakoroltam PoE-ba. Voltam vagy 10 TR-ra.
In another twist, Fantastic would go on to say
Akt
that it was a
3-ig.
bug
Meg amiatt, hogy ilyen root lesz, boss event lesz, vagy csomó, SSF-ás is trade-re jön inkább.
Oké, toxic rányom, de hogy ő hardcore vagy megint szokkorozni fog?
This also was a provable lie, as there was evidence that they had received word their trademark for the name had been rejected months prior. 2 different posts with 2 different lies in the same day
most
from these
poboltam a
guys that
TR-emet, és rájöttem
and
egy
restore the
tök OP
faith of the
interakcióra
people
az új
excited for the day
PF-fel.
before.
Mármint, hogy nem egy ilyen nagy szám, de meg összeszövet, hogy The Burden of Truth, azt hiszem Mavenből esik. Nem biztos. Ami Supreme Decadence ad.
Az a bennek, az a unique,
nem, az a lényeg, hogy amikor Life Flash-ket használsz, akkor a Energy Shield-edet is tölti a Life Flash-ka. És na mindegy, a lényeg az, hogy kapsz belőle free 1000 IS-t, amit folyamatosan recharge-ol, és ki tudod venni a izé módot, a FizzDR-t, az ISS-t, ami ISS-t, ami full IS-en a 10% lesz Fizzd mistake.
Igazi gémelek SSF HC root lesz eznek.
Igen.
Hát akinek van ideje,
nekik jó gémelés. Igaz se.
Nem tudom, de nekem ARPG, amúgy tök jó loot lesz, majd de nekem ARPG-be a loot ömlés, meg ilyenek a legfanabb, nem? Vagy nem, lehet ezzel én vagyok így aztán. Hogyha azt gondolom, hogy lesz, hogy nehezebb a játék valahogy máshogy, de van ugyanúgy loot, akkor még azt mondom,
hogy valahogy, hogyha így nehezebbet akar, akkor valahogy a mostani HC és a mostani sima game és a root lesz közé kéne menni. És a HC nehézség és a root lesz most a nehézség közé. Egy kicsit még. De amúgy én azt látom, hogy így elkezdték, úgy volt, hogy nem foglalkoznak, most meg elkezdtek. Lehet, hogy majd ezzel akarnak úgymond visszavenni a mostani power creepből, vagy azt ugye. Vagy nem az van, hogy na, akkor hogy tudom én, egy patchbe azt mondják, hogy nagyon minden szarabb lesz, na itt a root lesz, azt akkor ez lesz idő után, majd ez lesz a, nem tudom.
De esküszöm, a root lesz se lenne szerintem annyira szar, hogyha legalább crafting bench lenne. A crafting bench ez nem tudom, annyira jó poéba. De nyilván arról szól.
De most a movement speed is adtak.
Ja. Nem tudom, még az is lehetne, hogy nerfelt crafting bench, de hogy így is alig van itemed, meg még rá se tudsz craftolni, aztán ez nem, számomra ez nem az, hogy nehezebb a játék, hanem csak nem tudom, több időt vesz igénybe minden. Mivel... Ja,
confidence that the launch will go well. If it does end up being a scam, it will have been an impressive one, as it
de mondjuk én azt szerintem túl sok volt most a sírás, hogy így lootless-be lesz a verseny. Mert mint hogy megértem egyébként, mert tényleg azt mondták, hogy így ez csak egy ilyen side mode lesz, meg minden. Meg szerintem is fanabb egyébként, hogyha a rész is abban a ligában van, amit többen tolnak, de nem tudom.
Where is the game today? 2 launch delays later and 6 months before its newest scheduled release date. Well, on February 16th, 2023,
azoknak nem low effort, akik meg akarják játni.
Hát jó, de hogy fejlesztőknek.
The website is still up, but if you click add to wishlist, it just takes you to the front page of Steam because you can't actually add it to your wishlist because the game doesn't exist on Steam anymore. This game hasn't stolen anyone's money yet, so it's not a scam yet. But the developers have been caught lying. They've been caught copying other developers' work. And they have a history of selling unfinished games and then walking away from them.
Csinálhatnék én is, de az övé jobb, akkor meg már miért használjam azt most. Ahogy esnek dolgok, meg ezért van, amelyet átalakítom.
There's just way too many red flags at this point. If you want to be kept up to date on how this all unfolds, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. And maybe even like the video and leave a comment if you're enjoying it. For the algorithm gods. Next up,
Dreamworld, a
game described as being the infinite open-world MMO where you could sculpt the world and create anything you wanted with a massive catalog of objects in one single world with millions of other players. You could explore thousands of unique biomes and fight and tame Dreamworld's incredible creatures. This game claimed it would be the last game you ever played. This should have been the first red flag because the slogan doesn't even make sense. The Dreamworld Kickstarter led by Zachary Kaplan and Garrison Bellick made a lot of promises that were more or less impossible impossible to fulfill. But who are they? What is Zachary Kaplan's history that allows him to believe
Az igen,
he is
milyen
capable
videót
of
nézem, most
taking
nézem be,
these
ez
big
mi?
money and delivering on his massive promise? Well, he opened a crowdfund for a speaker you wear on your chest back in 2015 because he claims he was hit by a car not once but twice while running with his earphones in.
Ez
This
mostani?
man doesn't
Én
need a
még
speaker
láttam
on his
egyet egy
chest.
ilyen
He
fél
needs
éve,
to
ami
stop running
ilyen
in the freeway.
Kickstarteres szarokról
Eventually, he
szólt,
stopped that
amiből nem lett
crowdfunding and
semmi.
promised all of his backers they would be able to purchase these speakers in just a few short months. That was in 2015, and here we are 8 years later, and the website is still up with the product still listed as coming soon. After that, he started a clothing brand, and it doesn't seem that panned out for him either. And neither of these projects are particularly horrible ideas. I won't fault anyone for trying to be an inventor or an entrepreneur. By themselves, these ideas are completely fine. The problem arises when, with those two failed projects behind him, he decided he would then use everything he learned about creating wearable speakers and t-shirts and applied that incredibly relevant knowledge to creating a massively multiplayer online game. Zachary Kaplan and his partner Garrison would create a Kickstarter and start hyping up their new game, and the fact that it would be able to have millions of people play together and modify the entire world at will to their heart's content. Unfortunately, he didn't mislead backers by saying that they had come up with the solution to all of the problems that prevented this technology from existing already, because that would have been lying to their investors.
The largest digital world that exists
Útfilter, never sync item filter.
Then we came up with a solution that allows us to have millions.
Oh, okay, well, that's not a good sign, is it? Naturally, all of this took place where many of these stories take place, Kickstarter. While other MMOs with $400 million budgets were struggling to achieve a fraction of what Dreamworld was promising, these two were going to do it all with a Kickstarter campaign for $10,000. That's right, $10,000 and two people to develop something multi-million-dollar AAA studios haven't accomplished with hundreds of developers at their disposal. What could go wrong? In what I can only describe as the result of people pulling out their wallets while temporarily detached from their brains, this Kickstarter would somehow hit its goal, and then some, earning a total of $64,706. Despite the fact that it looked like every ounce of footage for this game was nothing more than random assets from the Unreal Engine store slapped into the game with no rhyme or reason. It looked like that because that's exactly what it was, as Callum improved on his YouTube channel by showing each asset pack in the store. Even the main protagonist featured in all of the shots is the default mannequin from the Unreal Engine. The red flags were everywhere, but somehow that didn't stop 4 people from donating nearly $2,000 to the game. Once you have backed the game, you were promised access to the pre-alpha. However, the fine print stipulated that you wouldn't actually receive access to the pre-alpha until you also forced 2 of your friends to back the project as well. It's things like this that start to push this entire Kickstarter farther away from ignorance and closer to malice. As soon as the Kickstarter closed and they had all of their money, they went to work on the game, right? Well, no, they immediately went on vacation, causing everyone to wonder if they'd run with the money. They would eventually come back, however, and resume work on the game. They started a Discord server that used 14 to 16-year-olds as moderators so they wouldn't have to pay anyone. Like many of the stories on this list, this is one that just kept on giving. Even Zachary's ex-girlfriend chimed in on the whole situation to explain that the 9 years of game development experience Zachary claimed he had was actually nothing more than him writing ideas down on paper. At best. Garrison's claims of being a former employee at Google were also
Izéről néztem most dokumentumfilmet, Conti nemrég olyan izéről, ilyen Dinosaurus Corporationnél olyan jobokról, meg ilyesmi, ahol az emberek már ilyen 2 éve nem csináltak semmit, meg be sem mentek, meg semmit, de csak így ott vannak, mert ugye annyi employee van, hogy nem tudják mindent lekövetni. Néha én is úgy érzem magam.
But buying your fiancé a ring so fake it can't be resized and then gaslighting her for asking about it shows severe lack of communication and maturity. But this was some pretty damning information. We basically confirmed that both of these guys greatly misled their investors where it pertained to their previous experience in this type of a project. Fortunately for them, they would have a chance to prove all of their doubters wrong. As with all things like this, eventually the product would be delivered or not. On May 20th of 2021, we'd finally get to see Dreamworld in all of its glory. The moment everyone had been waiting for. Content creator Skiasso posted a video of himself playing the alpha, and let's just say, it was somehow worse than anyone expected. This footage was pure nightmare fuel. It looked like something that someone's toddler could have made in about 5 minutes of spamming random assets into an open world in the Unreal Engine. It was unforgivably bad. Probably because that's exactly what Zachary did. In fact, I'm positive someone could have made something far more attractive given just 5 minutes in the Unreal Engine, leaving everyone wondering where did the money go and what was the time spent on. But hey, maybe the game just needed more time. It was an ambitious project after all. Well, that major reveal was 2 years ago. So where's the game now? Nearly 2 years after becoming quote-unquote playable. To their credit, they did continue to try and at least give the impression that they were trying to improve the game for some time, posting weekly updates on their website and on YouTube. However, those updates mysteriously stopped a little over 2 months ago. For all their work, their YouTube channel and its 2 years of existence managed to gather about 500 subscribers. So, what is the future of Dreamworld? I don't think there is one. These guys set out to make an ambitious game and failed. That in itself would have been acceptable for the fact that they misled people, claiming they had years of experience in an industry that they didn't, in an effort to get their money, claiming that they had a solution to a problem that prevented games like this from existing in the first place when they didn't. At which point do we call these things a con? At what point do they slide past ineptitude and into malicious intent?
Csak azt akartam mondani, hogy az a vicc, hogy ma már annyi mindenki tud ilyen szart csinálni, hogy hát ezért is szar például a Kickstarter is, meg az Early Access is, meg igazából bármi, ami ezt köthető.
Telling the world exactly what type of people they are. Thanks to YouTubers like Callum Upton and Kira TV, it's been incredibly well documented, and I think it's safe to say no one in their right mind would work with these guys or give them money in the future. Next up, we have Identity. Identity is another game put on Kickstarter way back in 2015 that promised the moon. It was going to deliver not just any MMO experience, but the MMO experience, where you could do literally anything in a game full of other people doing literally anything they wanted. The world and its economy would be determined by the players playing the game. What did they need from the public? Just $150,000 to deliver an experience that AAA studios would spend hundreds of millions on. But this was 2015, before we'd seen a ton of scam Kickstarter projects materialize and fail to deliver. People's guards were down, and so they managed to collect 10 times their goal with over $1.5 million earned. How did they do this? Well, a handful of assets purchased from the Unreal Engine shop and placed into a world of course. We are starting to see a trend here, aren't we? Pledgers were even able to spend $5,000 for packages that would allow them to go into the office and game with the development team. Except there wasn't one. There was no office, and there was no development team, just 2 friends. The studio was only just created immediately prior to this Kickstarter by John Vanderswet. One of the consistent problems with all of these scams is the lies. Every development studio on this list has a habit of lying. These lies were a large part of why people were willing to give their money to these projects in the first place. It is these lies that should absolutely come back to haunt them in court, but for some reason never do. In the case of John Vanderswet, his lie was that he had invested lots of his own money in the game and that he just needed the last $150,000 to get it over the finish line. He even went as far as saying, should we meet our goal here in Kickstarter, we'll have everything we need to ensure that Identity gets completed. As mentioned, the game received 10 times what he asked for. John received $1.5 million.
Ezeket nem mentek el ezekhez megverni őket valami.
He needed $150,000, but
nem csak ezeket, hanem úgy egyébként.
$5 million. The estimated
valami
delivery
legal
of this game,
action
according
biztos
to the
volt, nem?
Kickstarter page, December of 2016. The Kickstarter closed and they began accepting additional funding on their own personal website. It wasn't until 2016, the year the game was due to release, that people started becoming suspicious
még jó példa amúgy a Early Access-re, hogy hívják, Star Citizen.
Pre-made assets placed into Unreal Engine. The only thing the developers had
Micsoda?
produced for the public were some sketches and some conversations. Yet another thing this game has in common with the rest of the games on this list. With the beta supposedly just months away, the developers still had zero footage.
Mi volt még? Volt most az a verekedős játék, az a Disney-s, vagy mit tudom én milyen. Ami valami 2 éve már Early Access-ben volt, azt most lelőtték a gémet, hogy... Ja, az. Ja, az nekem is tetszett amúgy. De elvileg így nagyon meg volt halva már a végén, aztán azért lőtték le és mondták, hogy majd akkor kijön a release jövőre.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Jó, de igen, nyilván az máshogy mondjuk.
Nincs benne ő hajót, Conti, nem vettél egyet $10,000?
Azért máshogy mondjuk Early Access-t is tényleg foglalkoznak vele és csinálják, vagy azt, hogy átbasszák.
Ja. De mondjuk az is gáz, hogy ugye ők is úgy jöttek, hogy lesz majd egy single player, meg egy MMO és a single playernek valami 2010.
És akkor az OV2 PvE.
Jó, hagyjuk már. Az Blizzard amúgy.
Kiadták újra aznak, hogy lesz PvE, OV2, minden, azt igazából nincs is benne semmi más. Ugyanaz.
Hát az volt, úgy volt reklámozva, hogy az majd több ilyen, jobban ilyen PvE fókusz game lesz.
Majd idén jön, jó, hogy nem jön ki egyből, hanem majd idén.
Nem tudom, a Blizzard én már így... Ne is beszéljünk róla, mert csak felbasz. Hát de a izével is mit csinált egyébként a Blizzard, a Warcraft 3 bífosta? Fanának elbaszták az életét.
At this point, Asylum had raised over $800,000, over 5
Mikor
times
kezdők a liga? Másfél óra?
It was also behind schedule and proposing to deliver a small fraction of the game that was promised. But at least it was something tangible that players would finally be able to boot up and play. On February
tényleg kijön ez.
12th, 2018, they finally released a trailer.
Számomra inkább az a durva, hogy az Overwatch-ot alapjába véve, hogy elbaszták idézőjelben, mert egy időben, miután kijött, így még így a LoL-t is nagyobb játék volt, mint a LoL, így Koreában is, így a PC bangekben, meg mindenhol többen tolták, és aztán így nem tudom. Blizzard valahogy az összes játékot, amit így kompetitívvé akar tenni, valahogy sikerül elrontani, vagy megölni, nem tudom.
Mert pénzt akarnak belőle, nem az, hogy jó.
Hát igen, nyilván ki akarják.
De igen, azt akarták, hogy jó legyen, aztán jó is volt, emiatt lett belőle pénz. Most már azt akarják, hogy jó legyen, és emiatt legyen belőle pénz, nem csak legyen belőle pénz.
Most már nem úgy van, hogy jó játékokat akarnak csinálni így lélekből, meg minden, hanem azt nézik, hogy lehet a legtöbb pénzt kisajtolni belőlük. Mint a Diablo 4-nél, hogy mit tudom én, hogyha a $90 pakkot veszed, akkor 4 nappal előbb játszhatsz vele. És nyilván mindenki, aki megveszi ezt a játékot, akkor akar vele játszani, amikor kijön, nem? Vagy...
Hát aki...